Hey everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. On this episode, she grew up in a Vietnamese immigrant household, went on to become an investment banker, and then turned to her true love, cooking. Now she owns a group of restaurants in Denver, offering chef-driven, scratch-made cuisine without the fine dining prices. Here's Chef Mary Nguyen. Chef, how are you? Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm great. How are things in Denver?
You know, the sky is sunny and the weather's warm and couldn't be happier and couldn't complain.
You grew up there, right?
I did. Yeah. I'm a native, born and raised.
Your parents, however, were immigrants.
They were. And actually, you know, if I had to be technical about it, I am kind of an immigrant because they were pregnant with me when we came here from Vietnam. So, we came from Vietnam at the end of the war and my parents were pregnant with me. So like true refugees that were, the first round of boat people. My dad was in the Navy and his colonel came to him and said, you need to leave and you need to leave now. So, go home, get your family and meet us at this place at this time. And literally went home and everybody who was there, he brought with him. I had 3 siblings in addition to a cousin who my parents raised because she was at our house. And then my grandmother who was there.
And how was life in the States for them and then for you?
Life for them and for me was very much the true immigrant story. We were all pursuing the American dream, right? Like we wanted a better life. We wanted to, we realized that we had this amazing opportunity to do so much and to be so much. So my parents worked tirelessly. They made a lot of countless sacrifices so that we could all grow up and, get a great education, go to college and get a great job, right? Like that has always been the goal for any refugee, any immigrant family was to get a great job and get a great education and assimilate into this American life so that you can be an American. So I think for me, seeing that resilience, seeing my parents work 3 to 4 jobs so that we could just have food on the table was a big foundation of me growing and doing the things that I'm doing now.
They worked constantly.
They did.
You were a latchkey kid.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which meant what?
I had 3 siblings, 4 really, 4 with my cousin and then my little sister and I who were born here. So there were 6 of us and then my grandmother, so 7 of us. We did as much as we could to help run the household and to help my parents assimilate. But at the same time as us learning English and learning how to assimilate into American culture, we were also helping our parents do the same.
How Vietnamese was your household?
Very Vietnamese. Yeah, I would say very Vietnamese. We spoke Vietnamese. That was my first language. When we got together as a family, which was typically only on Sundays when my parents, weren't working Sunday nights, we would get together and we'd always have Sunday supper, Sunday dinner. And that was a meal that was very traditional Vietnamese, small plates, all of us sitting around a table and enjoying just a meal together. And that was a true Vietnamese experience that I have always been able to hold on to. But I would say like day to day, parents really also wanted us to assimilate. They wanted us to learn English. They wanted us to be successful in this country that they called home now. And so, there would be opportunities where, we would have frozen dinners, we'd have those Stofers and banquet dinners, or the Totino's pizzas, right? Or the burritos, Little Debbie snacks.
Did you realize at a young age that you had a particular affection for or affinity for food and cooking, or did it hit you later?
It hit me later. I grew up with food being very important, right, in my life because sometimes we didn't have it. Literally, yeah, literally. But then sometimes when we did have it, it brought our family together, right? And it was a way for us to share stories and to really connect. It was never really just a meal. It was a reminder of resilience, right? And tradition and really of love. I actually didn't start cooking until I got into college. That was when I was really able to be creative. When we were home, it was just like, get the bare necessities, get the frozen meals.
So what were you cooking in college? Were you in a dorm? Were you in an apartment?
I was in an apartment. I had roommates and we would cook together and it became a lot more fun. It became something like, oh, well, what should we cook for dinner tonight versus like, oh, there's 6 of us or 7 of us. We need to make a dinner and like, this is what we have and it's got to be quick and it's got to feed a lot of people. I had older siblings that did a lot of that stuff for us. And then, as I got older with my sister, it was really like, okay, well, let's just heat up these microwave meals. But in college, it was a little bit more, we had more freedom.
What were you cooking?
I would cook pasta, get pasta and your canned sauce, but I would always kind of throw stuff in there. I would go to the store and instead of getting cafeteria food, I'd make fancy sandwiches, but not fancy because it was like inexpensive, right? But instead of buying the sandwiches, I would get the ingredients to make my own because it would be more cost effective. So in college, I started really getting an appreciation for it, and it was a necessity.
What were you studying in college?
I have a degree in economics and international affairs, and then minored also in Spanish.
And after college, you got a restaurant job, right? That's what you were going to do?
No, so a true American refugee immigrant story, like success and security to my parents, like get a great job, go to school, get a great job, get a great education, and become a doctor or a lawyer or a banker, right? So I followed all of my brothers and sisters. They all went into finance. They were all investment bankers, and I followed in their footsteps. I became an investment banker as well, and did that for a few years, structured bonds for the city and county of Denver in a public finance company. And then after that, I traded commodities. But during that time, really, now I was living by myself. I would invite friends over for parties and I would do dinner parties. And that was really when I started really loving food and loving hosting and loving just serving. I remember this. This was like back in the day when, the internet first started, and I would go into work really, really early in the morning before anybody else would get there and log on to like Martha Stewart or Epicurious. Those were like the only two websites, right, for cooking. And I would go online and I would like download all of these recipes, and it would just get to a point where I realized that like I was really passionate about it. And so I decided to leave finance, as much as I felt like I shouldn't, because my parents raised me and they had sacrificed so much. I just knew that this was something I needed to do. So I left finance and I started getting a job. I started my own catering business because I had these contacts in finance that I knew that I could help cater to. And then I just got jobs in multiple food and beverage establishments to learn as much as I possibly could, because I knew that I wanted to open a restaurant one day.
You were working 3 jobs a day?
I was, yeah.
How and what were they?
I knew that I wanted to open up a cafe one day because I felt like those were just amazing community spaces. So I got a job at Starbucks. I would literally wake up at 3 a.m, get in there at 4 a.m, and I'd work the morning shift until about 10 o'clock in the morning. And then I got a job at Hapa, a sushi restaurant, as a sushi chef apprentice, and they hired me for the lunch shift. And then I got a job at a fine dining restaurant in Denver called the Beehive, and I worked that dinner service. And so I did all 3 jobs for about a year and a half, and literally working from 3 a.m. and then getting home at like 11 o'clock midnight, and then waking up and doing it all over again. And like, this was the goal though. I saw the way my parents worked. They put 6 kids through college, and I had a dream, and I wasn't going to give up what they wanted to do for us, like what they had given up for us. So I really wanted to learn as much as I could. And so after about a year and a half, I had opportunities to then move into management. And, I realized that moving into management with Starbucks, while it would be great, if I moved into management at a restaurant, I would learn more. I would learn not just the cooking, but I'd also learn the business perspective, right? The business aspect of running a hospitality business. So after about a year and a half, I decided to really focus my time at Hapa. I started working more at Hapa. I went into more of a management role. And when I left Hapa in 2005 to open up my first restaurant, I left as the only female executive sushi chef in the country at that time.
What do you think about what sushi is and has become in the United States today?
Well, one, I love sushi, and I would say that if it wasn't in the US, I would never have been exposed to it. And it's funny, I think, in the 60s or in the 50s and 60s, there was really a big push by the Japanese to make sushi popular in the US. And gosh, I'm really glad that they did. I think it's really been able to introduce Asian cuisine to a wider audience. And I think that's ultimately, at the end of the day, like we live in a very big world, and I think that like having multicultural food makes our lives so much richer. But now seeing it and seeing, if you look into the future and you think about like, okay, where will sushi be in the future? Like, I think that that's what's really scary.
What's scary about the future of sushi?
Overfishing. The lack of fish to be able to even have sushi. I think that's a real challenge. And I think that's something that we need to think about. But, not just for fish, but also for meat, right? Like and farming, and just what's happening in our environment. I think that that's just scary when you really sit down and you think about what is all this going to look like in 50 years.
Does that inform how you buy and serve food at your restaurants?
It does. It really informs us. I think, though, our goal is always to provide great tasting food that is accessible and affordable. And so while it really helps us in making decisions, at the end of the day, we also really want to make sure that, we want to make things as accessible as we possibly can.
Okay, I took a little turn there. Let's go back.
That's right.
So next step, you decided to open a restaurant.
Yes.
The potentially least successful move anyone can make.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, I was fearless, right? It's like, no, I'm doing this. And never really even thought about the possibility of it being a failure, right? Because that wasn't an option.
How'd you get financing?
Gosh, I was really lucky to have a really great partner whose parents really, truly believed in what she and I were doing. And we opened one of the first French Vietnamese restaurants in Denver that really represented the culture and the cuisine in an environment that represented the beauty of that country and of that food. And I think if you think about this, like 20 years ago, and again, I'm in Denver, 20 years ago, dining out was so different. If you wanted something Asian, you were going to a restaurant that served pho and sushi and Thai food and Chinese food, and Asian food was just Asian food, and it was in an environment where it didn't educate the consumer, nor did it really represent the beauty of the culture. It was filling a need. If a consumer wanted to come in and they wanted pho, but they also wanted sesame chicken or pad thai, that restaurant was going to serve it to them, because at the end of the day, they were probably refugees, they were probably immigrants, and they were just trying to make ends meet. I think about this now is that as a restaurateur or as a chef, what brings me joy is giving people what they want, right? Like my joy comes from giving people what they want. And if they want Chinese food, I'm going to give them Chinese food, right? Because my job is to make them happy with food. It's interesting because we were trying to, we created this concept that was filling a niche that had been created because people were really just trying to get by.
You say French Vietnamese food.
Yes.
France was heavily involved in Vietnam before the United States. What is French Vietnamese food? What were you serving?
Oh, gosh. I would say that, we would do, for example, like pho, right? So the French colonized Vietnam, this, and there's a lot of French influence in just Vietnamese culture, not just the food, but Vietnamese culture. I mean, they were in the process of changing our language to French. So we are like the only Asian country or, country that was colonized by them that has now a Roman alphabet, because they were in the process of changing our language. That was how deep they were in our culture. But like, for example, pho. Pho is very, very French because a French family wanted a pot au feu. And a Vietnamese chef was like, okay, how do I make that? Well, I'm going to make it with beef bones, and I'm going to throw in all these other things, whether it's, cinnamon and star anise and fish sauce and rock candy, and then there are crepes, right? Vietnamese crepes that are very traditionally, they came from French cuisine. So like the bun sale. Have you ever had bun sale?
No, in fact, I'm embarrassed to say I did not realize there were Vietnamese crepes.
Oh, yeah. Vietnamese crepes are made with rice flour and coconut milk. And we don't make them sweet. We make them savory. They're filled with bean sprouts and mushrooms and traditionally pork and shrimp. And then you eat it like a lettuce wrap.
Obviously, the banh mi,
yeah,
that's a baguette of some sort.
Yeah. That's a baguette. And, typically our baguettes were made, with the French influence in Vietnamese cooking, we definitely used wheat flour, but then we also put a little bit of rice flour in our baguettes because they were crispier and they were lighter. Curry, we would eat curry with baguettes, so we wouldn't eat it with rice. We don't eat it with rice. We eat it actually with with bread to sop up like a stew or a bourguignon, So what we did in Parallel 17, which is my first restaurant.
Let me just interrupt. Parallel 17 is the boundary between what had been North and South Vietnam.
Yeah, so we opened Parallel 17 in 2005. And to me, it was really serendipitous because we wanted to name this French Vietnamese restaurant Parallel 17 because it was the dividing line between North and South Vietnam. And the serendipity in this is that our location was on 17th Avenue in Denver, which is amazing, right? So
some things are meant to be.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And that's why I was like, there's no way we're going to fail, right? And maybe it was because it was denial, and it was like, I am also the eternal optimist. So, I never really think about like what could happen badly. I only think about what could happen, in a positive way because, that's what really drives me. But yeah, we opened in 2005 and it was really amazing because it was really the first of its kind. And we were really able to help revitalize a part of Denver that had really lost its luster. And when we opened our place in 2005, it really became the place in Denver to go. So it was really rewarding. And we had that place for a really long time, for more than 12 years.
And then you opened a second restaurant.
And then I opened up a second restaurant in a completely different part of town. And that was a restaurant that was an Asian street food restaurant. So I was really trying to take, that concept of like all of these other Asian restaurants that were really, serving Thai food and sushi and Vietnamese food all in one place and really, just serving it up as Asian cuisine. I wanted to do it in an environment that was also educating people, and like, this is Malaysian, this is Thai, this is Chinese, this is why we eat it. And it was a really great, really fun restaurant. I loved it. And then in 2013, I opened up Olive Finch.
Why'd you open Olive Finch? I've read that your personal circumstances help motivate that?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So, at the time I had two restaurants. They were two busy restaurants. And I was the chef and the owner behind both of them. So just really busy. And at the time I was also, full transparency, I was trying to get pregnant, but it was hard, it was hard to get pregnant for so many reasons, not just because of advanced maternal age, but also because I was working from morning to night on my feet, cooking on the line, and just really stressed. And so not only was I trying to find great food, chef-driven, scratch-made food, because, doctor's orders, you need to really eat well, you need to be very mindful of what you put in your body. It was also like, I didn't have a lot of time. It was hard. I mean, when you think about this in Denver 2012, if you were looking for a chef-driven, scratch-made meal, you had to go to a full-service fine dining restaurant to have that kind of experience. And I just felt like that had become such a commitment in time, in diet, and in money. I don't know about you, but like as a chef, I'm literally eating over the sink, right? Whatever is left over at the end of the night. Sometimes, most of the time, probably eating fast food because last thing you want to do is make yourself food. It's funny, we spend all of our time making amazing meals for people, but when we actually take care of ourselves, we don't. So I was really trying to find ways to take care of myself, and I just wasn't finding those kinds of options in Denver. So I decided that I was going to create my own option. I was going to create a restaurant that was accessible in time, accessible in diet, and accessible in menu price. So I opened Olive Finch in 2013, assuming that this was going to be a passion project. I was going to open up a casual counter-style restaurant because I wanted something easy. I wanted something quick, but everything that we did in the back of house was still full service. Everything was made from scratch. And so, it was still going to be high quality food. But also nothing on the menu is going to be more than $13 at that time, right? In 2012. And so I did. And the funny thing is that nobody really understood what I was trying to do. They thought I was going to open up a fast food restaurant. I'm like, I'm not opening up a fast food restaurant. That is far from what I'm trying to do. I'm just really trying to make great food accessible.
I've seen in print, I've seen it referred to as a fine casual restaurant.
Yes.
As opposed to fast casual.
Yes. And because it's not, nothing we do is fast in the back of house. Like really, we get our bread baked for us fresh every single day. We roast our own turkeys, our own beef, our own chicken, and they're chicken breasts and turkey breasts. And that's what we put in our sandwiches and in our salads. You're not getting deli meat. We make all of our own sauces. We make we make everything from scratch, and then we put it together in a way that is going to be a little bit quicker, so the prep is very labor intensive, but the pickup is actually pretty quick. And that's what I think makes Olive Finch very special, because we are giving you this really high quality experience, but we're letting you as a consumer dictate what that experience is like.
Pragmatically, restaurant margins are paper thin to start with. How can you possibly do that and not go bankrupt?
We have made financial decisions from the get-go when we opened up Olive Finch. It was very much a passion project. And I would say that it is still, to this day, our core value is making great food and making it accessible. So at the end of the day, we make less profit. We're looking for even tighter margins. And one of the things that we're investing in quality, we're investing in our team, we stay true to our values, and we're growing. And our volume helps us manage that. As we have been growing, we have a central production facility. So while we are growing, we haven't lost the chef-driven scratch-made meals. We haven't lost that everything's made from scratch, that we're bringing in whole turkey breasts and whole chicken breasts, and we're roasting them, and we're hand slicing them, because we're doing that in a production facility that then services all of our other locations. So I don't know if a lot of people can say that, right? As they've grown, they've maybe had to go to frozen product, or they've had to order from this or order from that. But for us, we're really controlling our supply chain, because we're producing it in-house, and then we're also distributing it as well.
You've got steak frites on the menu right now for $20. Hanger steak, fries, bordelaise, and shug? What's shug?
Shug.
Shug.
It's a sauce. It's a Latin sauce that is a spicy sauce.
I've never heard of it.
Really?
Perhaps I'm terribly ill-informed.
Well, I think you need to come to Denver so I can make you one Vietnamese crepes and some shug, but it's a Middle Eastern sauce.
Where do you get the beef?
We bring in the beef actually from Colorado, and we bring in a good volume, and our team breaks it down. So we're not getting pre-portioned hanger. We're breaking it down, and then we use our scraps. We grind it, and we use that for our hamburger and for our kofta. So, we are trying to be 100% sustainable when we can be, because everything matters, right? Pennies turn into dollars, and I think my team hates me when I say that all the time, because literally, we use everything because we have to and we want to.
Your menu travels the world. I have not seen matzo ball soup, dan dan noodles, and beef kofta on the same menu. How do you decide what goes with what?
One, we really try to look at our menu, and we look at ways that we can cross-utilize, right? Because it's a big menu, and we're pretty high volume. So we need to be able to, those pickups need to be pretty quick. So we think about those things, right? We think about execution. We think about our team, but also we think about we talk to our guests, we ask, what do they want? And for us, we are a globally inspired menu, because we are, at the end of the day, we're trying to provide accessible food, but we also want to provide a menu where you can come in and you can have 3 different experiences, morning, noon, and night. And you can have a completely different meal 5 days a week.
I'm looking at the tuna sashimi tostada. Talk about pan-cultural.
Yes.
How'd you come up with that?
Oh my God. I can't take all of the credit. We're now at 6 locations, and by the time the end of this year, we'll have 8, and next year we'll have 10. So I'm really lucky that I have such a great team that I love and that I fully trust. So we have a culinary team, and we all work together. And, my goal is to really give them opportunities to grow and give them opportunities to design menus, and we work on it, and we really kind of play off of each other.
Do you have a favorite item?
Oh, geez.
Just between you and me.
Just between you and me. I love the bucatini. It is absolutely amazing. Gosh, I'd say the goddess salad is fantastic. It's just a salad with cucumbers and herbs, and kind of our take on a goddess dressing with avocado and capers. And it's really light and it's refreshing. It's a different way of having a regular salad, because it's actually mostly cucumbers, and cucumbers are kind of my favorite. And then, I really, really love the Ankara sandwich.
Which is?
It's with turkey. So, we use turkey breast, and then we serve it up in a baguette with Granny Smith apples, a walnut aioli, butter, arugula, and brie.
Ooh.
That's pretty nice. Yeah.
Have you faced added challenges as you have worked your way up the food industry ladder because you are female and or because you are of Vietnamese descent?
I would say that I have found challenges for both. And not necessarily always in hospitality, but I would say, in my days as when I was a sushi chef and really kind of like becoming my own and really moving into a management position in an environment where there were very little women in the room, it was a real challenge. It was a real challenge in so many ways, not just from harassment physically. I've had people key my car, right? I've been threatened with knives. I've been, but also like sexually, right? Like, and that I would say, I hate to say that it's normal, but I've been around long enough and I've been in in this male dominated space long enough to absolutely have had that experience. I've had my superiors, male bosses ask me if me trying to, reprimand somebody was because I was on my period, like just those kinds of experiences, right? That you can't assume that it is because you're a female or that you have certain, you go through certain things that they don't. So, but I really also think that it was an opportunity for me to prove myself, right? And to show that I could succeed in this male dominated space. And I would say, from being Vietnamese or from being Asian, as I opened up Olive Finch, because all my other two locations were Asian, people were very surprised that I could cook food that wasn't Asian. And they don't think about that, right? Because they don't think that they're racist. They don't think that they have any issue with anybody. It's like, oh wow, I didn't realize that the owner of Olive Finch or the chef of Olive Finch was Asian. It's like, yeah, I am.
Do you think the restaurant business, in terms of how it treats people, is getting any better?
I do. Absolutely. I think it's getting a lot better. And I think that as operators, we have a responsibility to create the environment that we want. And I think for me, the environment in restaurants isn't just about racism, right? Or about mistreating people of different gender in a different way, but it's also just the care that you have for your team. I think that a lot of people really feel like they're expendable in this industry. And so then they react that way. So I think that that's why we see turnover. That's why we see that this industry isn't as respected as it should be, or that people don't value, working in this kind of industry. And so that's something that I've wanted to change from the get-go. I'd say like as I opened up my first location of Olive Finch, like we provided full medical, full dental, full vision for all of our employees. We had a 401k plan that we matched dollar for dollar. We offered vacation. And, that was unheard of 13 years ago when you had 25 employees. And now we have 125 employees and we're still doing that to this day. So the goal for me is to really create this environment where people feel like if they are passionate about hospitality, then they can really pursue a role and pursue a career in this industry, because we're creating the framework to be able to have a lifelong career. And we're also creating opportunities for you to grow. So not just having the regular benefits that you would for a 9-to-5, but also we age out. Right? We age out of this industry. So when you're a chef, maybe when you're 40, 45, your body starts kind of aching and, you're not able to work those long shifts. But we've really created a business model where our chefs can become our GMs, and we have multiple lines of revenue and multiple companies in our collective, our Olive Finch collective. So we have opportunities for people to move into HR or to accounts payable or into project management or into our wholesale operations. So I think that we're really trying to change hospitality and change the way that people are treated in the industry from a whole.
What a great thing to be doing.
Oh, thanks.
You hear so many horror stories. It's really terrific to see the way you're approaching these things. Chef, it's been a real pleasure speaking with you. I'm coming to Denver for those meals you've offered.
Yeah, you gotta come. I would love to cook for you. I really would.
Oh, nothing would make me happier. I'll see you soon.
All right. See you soon.
Thank you, Chef.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Chef Mary Nguyen on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page, and I'll see you next time.